want to talk about working with matrices. In particular, I want to talk about addition, subtraction, and scalar multiplication. Multiplying matrices themselves will be a topic of another video. But let's jump in, and I have these three matrices written here. Remember, a matrix is just a rectangular array of numbers. Every matrix has a number of rows and a number of columns. So this is a 2 by 3 matrix, as is this one, and this is a 2 by 2 matrix. So let's jump in. Addition of matrices is exactly what most people would expect. So if I asked you to add A plus B together, we would have those two matrices. Let's just write them down. And we'll add it to, there's our matrix A, here's our matrix B. And when we add matrices together, we add corresponding entries. So this is a 2 by 3 matrix, this is a 2 by 3 matrix. Our result will be a 2 by 3 matrix. And we add those corresponding entries, meaning we have 4 plus negative 11, that's negative 7. We have 7 plus 6, that's 13. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4. 9 plus negative 6 is 3. 2 plus negative 10 is negative 8. And 3 plus 3 is 6. And we have added the matrices. Subtraction, again, is not very much of a surprise to people. So let me just jot these two matrices down. And we're subtracting now. And when we subtract matrices, we subtract corresponding entries. So when we subtracted these two, we would have 4 minus negative 11, and make sure we apply that minus to each of those entries. So 4 minus negative 11 is 15. 7 minus 6 is 1. Negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. 9 minus negative 6 is 15. 2 minus negative 10 is 12. And 3 minus 3 is 0. And we have our matrix. That is the difference between these two. Now notice if we tried to add A plus C together. We would have our 4, 7, negative 1, 9, 2, 3, plus, I can certainly write the problem down, 2, 8, 9, negative 6. However, if we started to add corresponding entries, first you might say, well, there's a 4 and a 2, and there's an 8 and a 7. But there is no entry on this matrix that corresponds to these entries in the first matrix. So in fact, we say this sum is undefined. The number of rows and the number of columns in the two matrices must be the same in order for us to be able to add or subtract those matrices. So let's continue. We've talked about addition and subtraction. Let's talk about scalar multiplication. And I'm going to keep those matrices the same. We'll keep them A as 4, 7, negative 1, 9, 2, 3, and B will be this matrix, and C will be this matrix. Although we're not going to use C again, so I don't need to write it. So we'll have A as 4, 7, negative 1, 9, 2, 3. And B will equal negative 11, 6, 5, negative 6, negative 10, 3. And when we're talking about scalar multiplication, we're talking about multiplying a matrix by a real number. For example, 3A. When we're talking about matrices and then real numbers, we often call the real number a scalar. So this is a scalar, a plain old number being multiplied by the matrix. So if we have written it out, it's 3 times 4, 7, negative 1, 9, 2, 3. We'll multiply each entry of the matrix by that scalar. So we have 3 times 4, 3 times 7, 3 times negative 1, 3 times 9, 3 times 2, and 3 times 3. And the scalar multiplication is done. Let's do one more problem. How about 5a minus 2b? So here we go. We have 5 times 4, 7, negative 1, 9, 2, 3, minus 2 times negative 11, 6, 5, negative 6, negative 10, 3. So we have a scalar multiplication here, and then we'll do our subtraction. So when we multiply matrix A by 5, we get 20, 35, negative 5, right? 5 multiplied by every entry, 45, 10, and 15. And then we'll subtract this matrix. We're going to multiply each entry by 2, and we have negative 22, 12, 10, and negative 12, negative 26. Now we certainly could have multiplied each entry by negative 2 and then make that addition. If that would have felt more comfortable to you, go ahead and do that when you're doing a problem. But I didn't. I only multiplied by the scalar 2, so I still have to take care of that subtraction. So let's do it. We have 20 minus negative 22, 35 minus 12, negative 5 minus 10, 45 minus negative 12, 10 minus negative 20, and 15 minus 6. And we have calculated 5a minus 2b. Now again, what we haven't done, as I mentioned, is talked about how you multiply a matrix by another matrix. And that will be the topic of the next video.